Last round was a mere hour drive from tonight's venue, and much like last time, we tackle an absolute classic in the motorsports pantheon. Get ready for some speed at Spa as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is former driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Let's hop over to our track guy to help explain what makes Spa so special to fans and drivers. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchimont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lecombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round. Joey, this is a track that's almost a must to be on any calendar if you're making visits over to Europe.
I would love to go there myself one day, and it is a behemoth of a circuit, 4.35 miles and 19 turns that is filled with some steep elevation. A couple key points, especially those passing areas, the turn 1 La Source hairpin, always a good opportunity. But remember how long the straightaway is. After that corner, you go up through Eau Rouge at the top of Rétillon, down the Kemmel Straight, so the draft going to be very important going into that turn 5, 6, 7 section. And then it's pretty much downhill from the exit of 7 all the way down through into turn number 14. Turn 15 is pretty much the lowest point on this circuit, and then it is an uphill climb once again. Got to get in that slipstream through Blanchimont, and then the final chicane, turn 18 and 19, another great passing opportunity.
Yeah, the drivers will not be shy of chances to try and make passes out there. I think the bigger test will be who can handle these high speeds. Now, before we get to the racing, we want to mention our sponsors for this series. Porsche, there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. So far, the drivers have managed to put a few laps down, but we want to take a look at the championship positions, starting with the GT3 cars. Dylan Scott, with his win, is ahead of Bolton and Duncan up at the top. Matt Steele returns, but finds himself having a little bit harder time dominating like we've seen him do so in the past. Federico Del Toro hops over from the GT4s to these GT3 cars and manages the top 5, but I have a feeling he'll be wanting more than that. 8 cars total took part in that first event. We'll have some more here today, so it'll be a little bit tougher to get those good points. What about the GT4 standings?
There's, like you said, only been one race so far, so the results are that championship order. Christopher Marciniak leads the way over John Momeyer, Jim Garamani, and Larry Haas. I do see that there is one more driver entered here today. That's going to be Alan Watts, who's going to put himself on the board later.
Should be fun. I think we may have gotten a late entry as well. So I think we've got 6 cars now in those GT4s. That'll be a lot of fun. In the meantime, let's take a look at the race itself with our race details. We're in round 2 out of 12, 40 minutes. So this is their standard sprint format. The two classes have changed since last season. It is now the Porsche GT3R and the Porsche GT4 Cayman. And then they have a 50% fuel tank capacity. That means there will be a forced pit stop because of that limited fuel during this 40-minute race. 2 spare cars in case you have any issues. The good news is, Joey, there is a lot of paved runoff out here, but the high speeds can often mean that still won't save you.
I think the key part is that second mention there is so fast around this Spa racetrack that, yeah, you can get into some trouble. You see a good example of all that runoff right there. That was out of the exit of turn number 15 here at the bottom of the circuit. So, yeah, I think that there's some areas that you can probably run wide. However, if you find yourself losing control, you might find a tire wall rather quickly.
Definitely a couple faces that we didn't have in race 1. Like I said, more cars means points will be harder to come by. Granted, they do award points all the way down to the bottom of the table, but anybody 10th on back only gets 2, no matter where they finish. So if you want more to separate yourself, you need to finish higher up, as it looks like qualifying is over. So our grid is now set. And I said Federico Del Toro was hoping for more. Well, he did get more. He managed to qualify on the pole for this one. So that's a fantastic turn of events for him. Matt Steele is going to be starting to his outside. From there, it'll be Jad Duncan starting from 3rd position. BJ Fulton will be starting in P4. And Mark Rondeau starts in 5th position. Then it's Michael Bolton in the 6th spot, followed by Rob Russell in 7th and Dustin Heindel in 8th. James Baxter starts in 9th position. Daniel Faverco rounds out your top 10. We did not get a lap time from Thomas Isabel and Jeffrey Shulam in the GT3Rs. They'll probably be gridding up just behind those in their class. What about the Cayman category?
That was Christopher Marciniak on your pole position in that number 35 Cayman GT4 with a lap time of 2:31.587. That's about a second and a half faster than anybody else. Alan Watts lined up in 2nd place with Larry Haas narrowly behind him in 3rd. John Momeyer also close in that 2:33 lap time bracket, starting in 4th. Jim Garamani in 5th. And watch out for Matt Hollander. He did not put a lap time in qualifying. That number 69 car is going to be starting from 6th.
Certainly have an interesting dynamic up at the front of the GT3Rs with Del Toro and Matt Steele. And I'm trying to recall, I feel like they may have faced off in the Caymans in some of the previous seasons. But I know both at times have been dominant at the front of their respective classes. So you get a clash of the Titans, Joey. It becomes a question of who comes out on top.
It'll be pretty interesting to see how it unfolds. I'm really looking at our pole sitter, Federico Del Toro. He was so strong in those Cayman GT4s the previous season, and like you said, he jumped up into the GT3Rs now, and he's at the pointy end of the field. I think this is a good track to kind of test the limits of what that driver's learned.
So will they be able to get through that first corner of La Source as well? That's another talking point that is often a big factor when you have this layout of the track. Now, the layout essentially remains the same for the most part, unless you're doing the moto layout that they recently introduced here in iRacing. But the starting line can be at different positions. And this one is where you traditionally see for Grand Prix racing, for things such as Formula One, on that start between the bus stop and La Source. But that means your first corner is a very sharp hairpin. Hopefully, everybody can keep it safe through there. Even though it is a rolling start, it can see some chaos as they are released, and they have to wait for the green flag in this series, so they cannot go quite yet. But they've not quite stacked up because of that last chicane, and there is the green flag. Del Toro got himself a bit of a gap over steel before they came to that green. That'll give him easily the inside. Duncan looks down, and they're going to make contact for P2, and our leader spins as well. Suddenly, BJ Fulton finds himself promoted to the top spot in one corner.
And yeah, that was trouble at that GT3 start, and you see the Caymans already mixed up as well. Alan Watts was able to escape from his pole position, and now some muscling going down into Eau Rouge and up top through Radion the first time.
Have a black flag for Thomas Isabel. Not sure what that is for, but he's going to have to serve that quickly. In the meantime, battle for the overall lead. Fulton and Bolton are going at it up there. And now we have Michael Bolton. The lead has already changed twice, and we haven't even hit halfway through the first lap.
This is some frantic racing. It is Michael Bolton, like you said, leading the way in that 127, but BJ Fulton had a big old block on Mark Rondeau. That's the gray car with the orange wheels. He's trying to make his way forward. I can't believe Michael Bolton up +5 already.
He took a second place in the opening round at the Nürburgring. Can he go one better and set his sights on a championship? Meanwhile, we watch Mark Rondeau recovering, trying to get back into it. He's chasing on BJ Fulton, looks to the outside down into Fagnes, but a big defense, so it is not going to hold him back. Round the outside and shuts the door. Rondeau is not taking no for an answer.
Nicely done from Mark there. That was an aggressive move on the opening lap here when you're still getting those tires up to temperature. So BJ Fulton is now relegated back down to that third place position as we exit out of turn number 15 and start to head up the hill here, looking for that fast corner of Blanchimont. You see Michael Bolton already starting to stretch it out as things are getting pretty busy for, call it, second and third place in the Cayman GT4 class. That's Federico Del Toro with the red wheels. He's trying to make his way back up after spinning in turn number 1.
He's already 17 seconds behind the lead of the race. It's going to be a massive effort if he wants to get in and hunt for that, but we're just about done with the first lap, which means our chances of a full course yellow bunching everybody up are starting to slip away. And credit to everyone if we do manage to get away without the incident points racking up enough to throw that caution as the Caymans go through the final chicane. Momeyer in second. Remember, that's not our leader that we're watching. Watts has run away up the field.
Yeah, and I was just a little bit of a glitch on timing and scoring. I was a little bit worried. I saw BJ Fulton dropping down through the order, but he's back up there in that third place. So this, call it, second place train right now for the Cayman GT4s is led by John Momeyer in that Sun Devil theme machine. Christopher Marciniak is that white car with the red highlights, and then comes Larry Haas and Jim Garamani. Is a little bit of contact up at the top of the hill. I believe that's Dustin Heindel and Rob Russell.
Looks like Russell's going to have the inside into Malmedy. Both of them a little bit off the apex, but Russell does hold on to P5 over Heindel. Battle's not completely over. A little poke from Dustin down into Ravage, but nothing doing between them. By the way, just an update. Thomas Isabel had the black flag cleared. Joey had a good spot on that one. It looks like he just was not gridded up with his class like they thought he would. So he had to pass some cars and just some housekeeping from race control.
These cars are down through this double apex of Puhan. It is so tough on those tires. You are accelerating the whole way through. I saw about 145 miles an hour while pulling those lateral Gs, and then you got to get it decelled all the way down here for what is turn 12 and 13. Another on the brakes, another downshift for turn number 14. Get it up on the entry curbs and the exit curbs because you got to open up this radius of turn number 15 to get on the gas as soon as possible. Power yourself up this straightaway. Thomas Isabel has a fantastic run on Dustin Heindel.
Nicely done by Isabel without a qualifying lap, showing that the pace is there. Just needs to try and keep it within the boundaries, which could be an issue today, honestly, because they do have an incident limit at 17x. Once they hit that, they will be given a drive-through penalty, so you can't abuse it too much. In the meantime, we have a replay from earlier. Well, that was a good exit from Isabel, so we're going to hold off on that. Heindel has to go defensive. This is coming down into La Source. We already saw one pass around the outside earlier in this race. We're not going to get two yet.
Nope, and that's Matt Hollander that's just kind of creeping on the side of the road right now. I'm not quite sure. I think he's just trying to let the pack pass and kind of merge back into traffic as we ride on board. This black number 257 actually had to lift just a little bit going into that section, so that's going to kill all of his momentum and kind of drop him out of the slipstream as BJ Fulton now looks around the outside of Mark Rondeau. Remember, it was Mark that was making those outside passes earlier. Maybe BJ Fulton was taking some notes.
Couldn't quite execute in the same fashion, though. Rondeau will hold on to P2. But interestingly, while all this has been going on, Bolton's pass earlier turned out to be critical. He's already 3.3 seconds up the road. We're only on lap 3. He's broken that slipstream.
Yeah, that's pretty crucial there, and I think we're finally going to get that replay of our initial start. Remember, we had a couple cars get turned around. Federico Del Toro spun it all by himself. That's the gray pole-sitting car on the inside. But, Joe, I think there was a little bit of contact here with Matt Steele.
There absolutely was a dive down the inside of Steele, and things just pinched together in such a sharp corner. And a great job. Look at the rest of the field doing an incredible job avoiding getting collected in an incident at the very front of them. So I want to give a huge kudos to all the drivers out there for being able to navigate that.
I kind of think you saw Christopher Marciniak was that Cayman that definitely had to take avoiding action. I think that's why he went from second down to third in that initial start. So that's the reason why that number 35 has actually dropped down a couple of positions while Alan Watts is firmly in control of that Cayman class.
So that car that got into the side of Steele was Jad Duncan, and he's still sitting back in 8th. Steele's actually out of the race, interestingly. So I don't know if he maybe got some damage from that or what. He would have had his spare car, but he's elected to back out early, unfortunately, as Bolton now sets the fastest lap of the race.
And, just kind of putting in my 2 cents that if the car was damaged in turn number 1 and you had to hit the reset button, that might be a pretty long tow just to even get back into the race. So I'm sure probably the number 77 was pretty frustrated as it looks like we have a yellow flag on lap 3.
And this was thrown by race control. Now this is unusual because typically they have a limit of the first lap if it's going to be thrown, and it's honestly automatic on that first lap. So this was an intentional throw from race control, I guess, to get the field compressed back together because of that opening wreck maybe separating a bunch of them. And for Del Toro, I mean, this is critical. He was already 21 seconds behind the lead. He had lost so much time. This at least gets him a bit closer, but he's got a lot of cars to pass.
Yeah, if you ask me, armchair quarterback over here, I think this is a little uncalled for. I think that there's, good fortune and bad fortune in racing sometimes. But yeah, this one's a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're those leaders who made a good break for it.
Yeah, Bolton, had done such a fantastic job. This is really annoying for him. But if he's got the speed, as long as he can do it again, hopefully he can repeat that. This does change the dynamic on the fuel situation. Now, I'm pretty sure this is such a thirsty track, I doubt they'll be able to go to the finish on this unless they have a very lengthy caution. But it will open the window pretty wide.
100%. And I think we're going to take a look at another replay from the start here and maybe even get a shot of one of the Cayman. So this is riding on board Marciniak. And remember, he started as your pole sitter in that Cayman GT4 class, came around turn number 1 and pretty much had to take avoiding action. I think there was 2 cars that were pointed at him.
Yeah, and again, a great job in the scenario, but that's little consolation for him because of the fact that he lost the lead and lost a fair bit of time. So Watts now the leader in that class, with Momeyer moving up to second. Marciniak is still sitting in third. But what Watts had done to pull away from the field should now be erased, and everybody will have a chance to try and attack again. As you can see, the safety car has picked them up, so everybody will get bunched up. I assume race control probably likely to make this as short a caution as possible.
Yeah, and I think that at least if I'm putting on my race strategist hat right now, I'm gonna take advantage of this 100%. If you think you can make it to the end on a no stopper, immediately start driving it like a minivan, put it in sixth gear, and start doing clutch in. If you need to do a stop in this race, I mean, I see we're already 13 minutes into this. I mean, typically we have cars come in, in the final 10 minutes of a full green flag race. There's no reason not to pull it into pit lane this next time by, fill it up with fuel, and you're good to go and on the back of the pack.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right? Easy
If you
strat.
We'll see if anybody listens on that one. And I believe in the past we have had some drivers get a little sneaky with that when we had cautions, but we'll see if anybody tries that this time. The other thought I had, as you mentioned, the saving of the fuel, they're at the highest point of the track right here. So there's a lot of clutching that could be done, as it's quite steep on the way down, and I'm sure you could save a lot coasting downhill. We have a replay of the pass for the lead. This is what put Michael Bolton in the top spot, round the outside, and shutting the door, taking that lead away. And again, he looked incredibly fast after that, so that wound up being a very important pass for him.
It was a good power move, just strong on the brakes, and then felt like he had the grip up at the top of the hill on the opening lap, which isn't always the easiest thing to trust out there, but evidently maybe a little bit more of a higher downforce setup, or maybe a medium downforce setup that he felt that he could kind of take advantage in those opening couple of corners. But that 127, like we just highlighted, with a great power move, and then had pulled it out, about 3 to 5 seconds there between himself and Mark Rondeau.
Want to give some credit to Daniel Viverco in the number 8 machine. That's the red, white, and green one that we've seen. He is up 6 positions since the start. So Bolton, yeah, he's gained 5, and that is super impressive. But Viverco's matched and done one better. But granted, he's down in 4th right now, so he hasn't quite reached the top spot like Michael has. And still looking like he is one to watch out for on this restart, because he's been sneaky good.
Definitely, and like you said, plus 6 positions. So yeah, definitely that number 8 car sitting there 4th in line. Gonna have to watch, see if he can get a good restart. Now, I do still see that the lights are on the pace car right now, so that should mean that we're gonna be going one more time at least by the stripe before we get going green here. And I think it just kind of blows the fuel strategy open even more with how long these laps are going to be, about 5 minutes, maybe even more than 5 minutes long. You'll definitely be able to make it to the end.
Yeah, I'll get a beat on that this time, since Bolton did get picked up by the pace car this last time, so that should give us a more accurate reading on how long these laps will be, with about 27, little less than 27 minutes on the clock. If it does get down to 5 minutes a lap, then yeah, we're almost halfway through.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why they aren't going green is probably to allow people to pit. And here we see a handful of people. Here comes BJ Fulton riding on board with Viverco. So there's definitely going to be some that are going to take advantage right here. And you have to factor in this next lap too, right? I mean, a 4.5-minute lap from Michael Bolton, and we're going to do another 4.5-minute lap. That's going to put us at 20 minutes into this race, just past halfway. You gotta come unless you can make it to the end.
So only 3 drivers seem to think that they can make it, or they just weren't paying attention to the potential strategy calls. We did have a number of drivers make a very late call into pit lane. I'm surprised we didn't see any unsafe pit entries out there, because they definitely cut across a few lines, but I guess they must have managed to be within what iRacing considers the pit entry commitment cones. So back out for just about everybody at this stage. But ahead of John Momeyer didn't pit either. So one of our Caymans didn't pit. And that's going to make even more chaos up at the front, as he's now got about 8 GT3 Cup cars, or GT3Rs behind him.
There's definitely going to be 2 strategies, or at least 2 thought processes with the strategies. Now, if you pitted, you can for sure make it to the end. I think the gamble is with how long these laps are, like we've been talking about. Since we are doing 2 laps, I see the pace car lights are out now, but it's still 2 full laps under yellow flag conditions. That's what, 8.5 minutes, probably just over 8.5 minutes, by the time the yellow flag was actually thrown and we actually got caught up to the pace car. I think that you probably could make it to the end on a no-stopper as long as you were smart about it.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You need to plan. You need to be working with it pretty much as soon as it happened and be on the ball in terms of strategy. I think we're going to be going back green about 22, 21 minutes left on the clock, as it looks like the lap times were somewhere around 4.5 minutes behind the safety car. So not quite as long as we anticipated, but pretty darn close to our estimates on the lap times. And now that everybody has caught up and is in the train, this is going to be fascinating, because we saw when they were bunched up at the start, it is difficult to get through that first corner without being tangled up with somebody.
So let's kind of reset our order here. Our top 3 in that GT3 class did not pit. That includes Michael Bolton, Mark Rondo, and Jad Duncan. Now, Michael Bolton was the fastest car on the racetrack. He was in good control of this race. If he can make it to the end, I think clean air is definitely going to be king for that number 127. And then when you talk about the Cayman GT4s, it is Momeyer leading that class, with Alan Watt sitting in second and Christopher Marciniak. You had mentioned that John Momeyer did not pit, so he was pretty much promoted to that lead, while Watts and Marciniak both came down pit road. They're going to be on the aggressive attack.
Pretty much have to be at this stage. So we watch them come out of curve of Paul Frere towards the end of the lap. And Bolton will still have the lead, but doesn't seem to have, at least from what we believe, the right strategy call at this stage. BJ Fulton is the highest car to have pitted in the GT3Rs. He sits in 4th right now. And then there's only one car that simplifies things for us on the Caymans, John Momeyer. Everybody else has stopped, and we believe should be able to get to the end. Now, I know these are long pace laps, but don't go nodding off, because we're about to get a big wake-up call when things restart. And like I said, it can be chaotic on that first run into La Source hairpin. So keep your eyes peeled. Everybody's going to have to be careful that they don't wind up tripping over each other and ruin what could be a good or even race-winning strategy. Pace car is in. Control given over to Michael Bolton. He's holding it for a while now. Looking for the call, and there it is. Green flag is out. He accelerates away. Oh, there's a bunch of cars with black flags. Oh, excuse me. So that must have been because of the pits, and they are all cleared immediately. Down into La Source, and it looks like we managed to keep out of one another for the GT3 cars. GT4s, we got a spin at the back from Rob Russell in the GT3s. He does not hit anybody, though.
No, and John Momeyer crucially hangs on to that Cayman GT4 lead. I do see that Matt Hollander is actually the head of that Cayman GT4 train, but he's a couple laps down, and oh my goodness, Alan Watts just had to take avoiding action going up Eau Rouge and Radion here on this restart. I'm sure he's got a slowdown penalty as he's side by side with our class leader, John Momeyer, but watch out. Christopher Marciniak is going to look to the inside, potentially 3 wide. He backs out of it.
Watts and Holland both got slowdown penalties from that, but they're still both in the lead, haven't handed it back yet. Marciniak giving Watts, yeah, he could have an easy lead here unless they hand that time back pretty shortly. It could be disaster for them. They do not need a drive-through in this situation, and there's contact between both Watts and Momeyer, and now Marciniak does get through at least one car.
You got to feel for him, because Matt Hollander was giving up a slowdown and he just hit the brake super early, caused a huge accordion effect, and he's 2 laps down, just affected our race leaders.
Oof, that is not going to go down well with his fellow competitors. He had plenty of opportunities to give it back in a safe spot and elected to try and maybe game the system a little bit there. Vaverko is down actually a couple from where we saw him before. Some of that due to the pit stops. Thomas Isabel up 6 right now into that 5th spot. Now we're watching Dustin Heindel behind Federico Del Toro. He's made up at least a couple positions on the restart. He's into 7th.
Federico definitely trying to make the best of what is definitely a bad day for him. Remember, he spun around early in turn number 1. The yellow flag definitely helped him out because he's now kind of back in this pack as Dustin Heindel was a little bit wide through Blanchimont there with that car directly in front with the red wheels. This gray number 27 starting to close it in on the car that you had mentioned, Daniel Vaverko, who's actually kind of struggling here on this restart.
Bit of a surprise with how well he did on the initial green flag run out there. Coming down through La Source once again, watching from on board Del Toro, our current reigning champion for the GT4, switching classes this season. Don't think he's quite close enough for the slipstream. No DRS in these cars.
Oh, and it was a little bit wide right there. You got to be careful about getting the left side of the car too far over those curbs. You can definitely get a slowdown, and just as I check, yes, Federico Del Toro's got to give some time back.
Fulton does, Heindel does, Del Toro, Baxter, 4 different cars cut across too much there and are being told to give that time back. Matt Hollander now is in amongst those. And again, if they wait too long, they can get a drive-through penalty on that. I see Fulton has managed to do so. A lot of drivers are trying to sort of drip feed that time back slowly but surely, and it looks like they have managed to do that.
This is Thomas Isabel right on the back of BJ Fulton for 4th place as we go down the hill here. Enter this very fast double apex left-hander. I don't even know if I can call it a double apex left-hander. It is just a long, sweeping downhill left corner where you really lean on the right side of the car, and then into my favorite couple of corners here at Spa. These are often overlooked, 12 and 13 down here, and it feeds into 14 and 15. I just like the technicality of that section of the racetrack.
Definitely is tricky. Fanyes up into Stavilo has caught many a driver out. Isabel still sitting in 5th, and he needs to hold on to Fulton because behind Fulton, who, as I said, is the highest driver to have pitted, Thomas Isabel could inherit things. So if he passes, that could potentially be for the win. Meanwhile, Del Toro knows that he needs to pass some cars. He's still working on Vaverko, both of them using up an incident point.
Yeah, and Federico Del Toro has another slowdown penalty because he was so far wide on that exit. I'm really surprised that Daniel Vaverko didn't get one as well. Somehow Del Toro sneakily was already able to give back the time, and he's got a run on that multicolored number 8, except it's defensive from Vaverko. An aggressive move down the inside from Del Toro. Can he get the car stopped? He does, and now they're both on the gas. It's going to be a side-by-side drag race.
I'm amazed he made that corner. Oh, got to give some space. He tries to pinch down, but it's a better exit from Vaverko. A game of chicken, and it goes to Vaverko up through Eau Rouge. That's going to slow down Del Toro, allow Dustin Heindel to have a shot at things. He's got the speed now. What was going to be a pass for position has turned into a defense for Del Toro up towards the braking of Lacombe. And I'm not sure. Oh, no, he brakes very early, knowing he's on that shallow entry. That actually might give the advantage to Dustin Heindel, still staying wheel to wheel. James Baxter now getting close to both of them, gives just enough space, and Heindel will get the spot.
Joe, he had another slowdown penalty. That's why he was so early on the brakes at the top of the hill here. So Del Toro just needs to clean things up a little bit as it's side by side. Jad Duncan looking down the inside of Marc Rondeau. Almost contact. That's as close as you can get. And now there is contact to the left rear. Rondeau's around, and Jad Duncan's in the wall himself as well.
Both of them take damage. Fulton is now up to P2. Bolton is trying to run away, but it's only 6.5 seconds up the road. He needs so much more than that to try and make the gap to be able to take a pit stop here. I just don't think he has the time and pace to do it, but you never know. And certainly looks like Fulton has his hands full with Isabel behind him, so he is not a for sure winner here.
This black 257 of Thomas Isabel is +8 positions on the day. Started all the way back in 11th, and now he's looking to get a little bit more as BJ Fulton edges over those curbs on the right side here. Both of them slowing down for this final chicane. Let's see who's a little bit better in the slowest section of this racetrack. BJ Fulton actually gaps it out by about a car length.
Excellent exit for the 82 machine. That's the gray Martini car. Thomas Isabel and the black car just behind him, the number 257, just hangs on. And we're well past halfway in this race. But remember, we did have that yellow that kind of split things up in an awkward way where we're seeing these drivers maybe have to save a bit of fuel to get to the end, but we're pretty certain they can do it. Oh, and that was definitely going to be a slowdown penalty for Fulton there, who is way across the inside.
I see BJ Fulton definitely has a slowdown penalty, and the other one, that was because of the crash. Mark Rondeau, I saw, had a meatball flag as Isabel very deep on the brakes there, and Fulton is kind of on driver's right, so that brings these two cars even closer together. Thomas is trying to get to the nose, to the inside here. Can he outbrake him? This is a downhill section. Got to be careful about how deep you really take it. Fulton hangs on for now.
BJ is being very crafty. He placed himself extremely well through Lacombe and Malmedy, forcing Isabel to have to check up behind him. Could not overtake despite the slowdown penalty and time given back. We've got a replay up here. I assume this is for the incident down through Puhan. So it starts actually at the end of the Kimmel Straight. Very good braking from Duncan. And man, just incredibly close battling from the pair of them.
You know, and when we came to it, it was such a good, close battle. It was a shame that there was a little bit of contact down here in a handful of corners, because look at how much they were side by side, turn after turn, leaving each other millimeters of enough room out here. And ultimately, this next left-hander, Joe, is kind of where it was all decided. The left rear contact sent Rondeau around.
Yeah, I mean, they were pushing the limit here. Look at that, how close they get to one another. They survived the first apex, but it was the second one where, I'd say that they did kind of come together in opposite trajectories, but I'd say the outside car maybe pinched down a bit much.
Yeah, and you combine that, I noticed that Jad Duncan, the inside car, actually ran up on the curb, so that pushed him kind of half a car without. You combine those two, and all of a sudden, two boxes don't share the same space.
Duncan is now in pit lane, so he is probably taking that spare car as well as getting his fuel to get to the finish, because remember, he was one of those drivers that did not pit during that caution. 12 minutes left to go now. Jim Garamani on the podium. Alan Watts in front of him, but this is a whole 11 seconds behind Marciniak, who leads this class.
Yeah, Christopher is definitely taking advantage, and like you said, 11 seconds out front right now. He looks in the rearview mirror, and he can't even see his competitors. His last lap time, a 2:32.795. That's actually his fastest lap of the race, and was about a second plus clear of the next car.
Chris took the win last time out in these GT4 cars, so he's trying to back that one up with another win at the start of this season as he heads it into La Source once more. And in fact, we could barely see Alan Watts in the background from this long camera shot. That's how much of a gap he has put over the next nearest car in the GT4s. I don't think that battle for what is currently second, but we think will be for the lead, is over. Thomas Isabel still only a quarter of a second behind BJ Fulton.
I've been very impressed with how much Bolton has stretched it out, because these two have been battling, right? Fulton has just been able to hold off whatever Thomas Isabel kind of throws at him, and because there's some defensive lines, because there's a little bit of blocking here and there and side-by-side racing, it has just really slowed him up. You compare it to our leader's last lap time, about 1.7 seconds slower, and here's going to be another opportunity. Thomas Isabel is plenty close enough as long as he gets the run through Blanchimont and stays on the racetrack.
So hard to stay behind that car down through Blanchimont, and there you see an illustration of that. Yeah, he just lost so much in the aero wake. Unless we get a little bit wide there on board with Fulton, he was definitely going as deep as he could to prevent an attack into that chicane. Yeah, I think you're right that it's just not going to be enough for Michael Bolton, because I don't have the exact numbers, but it's looking somewhere in the realm of maybe 20, 25 seconds. Oh, and here goes Dustin Heindel. So here's another driver in for his fuel.
But Dustin stopped earlier under that yellow flag, so I think there might be a little bit of contact or something going on.
Yep, he's in and out immediately.
Yeah, so that kind of solves that one. Looks like Thomas Isabel. Let's see how good the draft is. I think you really have to have a different downforce level in order to kind of pull up alongside. Just going to kind of throw a fake move. No, he's really going to send it down the inside, and BJ Fulton leaves him space. He's going to maintain that second place position for now, but expect an over-under as we go down the hill. No, Fulton is still able to hold him off.
He's making him work for this one. And credit to both of them. It's been hard racing, but fair racing so far, as Fulton and Isabel continue to fight for, no doubt, what they understand is critical track position. Meanwhile, Federico Del Toro looks like he got another spot. That moves him into the top 5.
Nicely done for the 27. He was a little bit wild earlier, getting all of those slowdowns, but it seems that he's reeled it back in, has put his visor down, and he's just kind of got to work out there.
Getting word that he may have had a spin. That makes that 5th place even more impressive, but then we've seen a lot of issues out there. There was some gravel kicked up by Isabel going wide out of Fanye's, and now joining him, Fulton kicks up the dirt coming out of Stavelo. That evens them out as they're back to about half a second apart. And much like in the real world, that does drag a lot of that dirt and stones onto the track here in the sim.
Definitely can, and let's see this run through this fast left-hander, but Fulton is, call it about 10, maybe 15 car lengths out of this black and gold number 257, and is much closer to the apex this time through that final chicane. Isabel may be a little bit faster, call it through that second apex, closes it in on this short front straightaway, but it's all about this launch out of the La Source hairpin. BJ Fulton maybe a little bit wide, Thomas Isabel a little bit tightier through the apex and onto the exit, and now we go downhill into Eau Rouge.
Yeah, that does seem to be in favor of Fulton, just keeping himself out of reach at really an important part of the lap, but I think we're going to get another slowdown penalty. Yep, Thomas Isabel just cut a little bit too far across. That will help free up BJ Fulton even more. Daniel Viverco now promoted to 4th. As we saw on the screen, we had another pit stop. I think that was James Baxter, who is just now exiting back out. What about Jad Duncan versus Dustin Heindel? Still going at it here as we climb up the Kimmel Straight.
Sitting in the slipstream of the 117. Let's see how deep Dustin Heindel can take it on the brakes, because Jad Duncan's looking aggressive on the racing line to the outside, but Heindel's going to hold him off for now. Room given between the two. Let's see about this right-hander here. Oftentimes you can kind of pull an over-under or deep on the brakes. Jad Duncan is still definitely there as we go down into turn number 8. Trying to just see if he can loosen up this car in any way in front of him.
No dice yet. Jad Duncan, despite what looked like very good pace early in the race, has been plagued by issues, either of his own making or just simply having trouble trying to make the passes here today. Down into Puhan, still following in the tire tracks of Dustin Heindel with no way around. At what point does Michael Bolton pit in? Because we're down to 6 minutes to go, and he's starting to catch some traffic. So I wonder if we'll see him finally decide this is the time. And yep, that's the call. I just saw him head into pit lane.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a race over for Michael Bolton, right? Because everybody else is good to go. BJ Fulton is going to essentially get this race lead. Oh, that's what happened between Alan Watts and another car out there. I also saw that Jim Garamani had a meatball flag, so evidently something happened to the 163 as well.
So that means Larry Haas now looking at a potential P2. This is going to be a fantastic result for him. Bolton, where is he returning?
So BJ Fulton just pitted as well. Thomas Isabel is our race leader.
Did Fulton maybe get too many incident limits there? Or did he actually stop? He didn't stop. That must have been incident limits.
So that pretty much hands this race to the 257 of Thomas Isabel, as long as he is able to keep it clean, because Michael Bolton has just exited pit lane. He's got Daniel Viverco directly in front of him. We do know that Bolton is the fastest car on the racetrack. Joe, can he make up 5.5 seconds and pass a car in the next 4 minutes?
Oof, that's going to be a big ask, but it's looking. I would have told you, maybe about 15 minutes ago that he had lost this race, and now suddenly he is back into the running. Jim Garamani coming up over Eau Rouge, loses control and is hard into the inside wall with a massive shunt. No doubt that would require a tow to get back to pit lane because, you could see wheels very much askew on that car. In the meantime, before he even gets to Isabel, Verco is the first on the list for Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton kind of clips the inside curb there, shoved the nose out. Oh, he's getting aggressive on the brakes. You can really drive it into both of these corners. Viverco left the door open. Bolton's just trying to find a little bit of a clean piece of racetrack to get some grip on the front end of this car to get the launch out of what's going to be turn number 15 for the run up the hill.
Meanwhile, nice little battle between Duncan and Heindel still going on. But Duncan finally gets by him. Meanwhile, side by side between Viverco and Bolton for second place. He's got the inside down into Blanchimont. That pretty much seals the deal for the 127. Now he has to make up 6 seconds to catch up to Isabel in about 2 laps.
And I see Thomas Isabel in pit lane. Joe, this must have been a case where these drivers came in and pitted, but couldn't make it all the way to the end. I just find it very odd that they couldn't stretch it, 20 minutes on fuel? That's when we went back green, 21 minutes.
Yeah, it was 1.2 seconds stationary for Isabel, so only needed the tiniest splashes of fuel. In the meantime, Marciniak and Haas. Haas has managed to make the pass. When did this happen? How did he run down Christopher?
Marciniak had a terrible lap that prior lap, a 2-minute 39, while Larry Haas had a 2-minute 33. So there was 6+ seconds lost by that white and red number 35 somewhere.
And the driver that's going to be kicking himself in all of this is BJ Fulton. He's only 6 seconds behind Bolton, and he seems to be the only one that has had enough fuel to get to the end, at least in comparison. So if he hadn't have had that black flag, he would easily be in the lead right now.
This has been a pretty wild race, just trying to keep track of it. I'm just still trying to figure out how they didn't save enough fuel under yellow flag to make it another 2 minutes here to the end of the race. I think that's definitely a tough one here, as Marciniak is going to try to fight something back on Larry Haas here, trying to get the run. Let's see about through turn number 15. You really got to get on the gas a little bit sooner and see if he can sit in this slipstream. He is already gaining, but he's about 4 car lengths back right now.
They have a huge gap down to Momeyer in third, so they are free to battle without worry of losing too much behind them. Still seems to be struggling. Is there damage on the car that he's fighting with?
I don't see a black flag or a slowdown. I'm going to check to see if I see anything, but no.
And Haas slips up. Sorry, Haas just had a big wiggle coming out of the final chicane, and that is going to give Marciniak a chance to finally get that track position, but now can he hold him off while we have the white flag waving for Michael Bolton behind these two?
This is as close as it's been for these Cayman GT4s here. Marciniak, let's see if he actually does have a problem with this car like you had pointed out, Joe. It was just really slow at the end of the straightaway, and Larry Haas is all over the back end already.
I'm pretty sure we've never seen Larry Haas win a race. So I'll double check on the stats, but I'm almost certain that he has not had a victory in his career in the Porsche Owners Club. So close to maybe tackling that one. They might actually get passed by Michael Bolton on this lap, though. So this could be their last lap potentially.
It certainly seemed like Marciniak's car was kind of at full song right there. It was not like Larry Haas couldn't draft his way by, so I'm not sure what was happening going into that chicane. And in fact, Haas now slips up. The advantage goes to Marciniak.
Ooh, Chris is having a heck of a final run here, with luck maybe just a bit in his favor, trying to recover and get back up to the top spot. Speaking of luck, Michael Bolton has made his own luck today. We thought the strategy call was the wrong one. He said, no, I knew what I was doing the whole time, and has managed to retake the lead. Now, that said, again, Fulton had a black flag that did give Michael Bolton some of this back. But even if it wasn't, that didn't happen, Michael would have been in second place, which is still impressive.
Very impressive. I think he's definitely been the fastest car all race long. Not always had the track position because, like you said, just between the full course yellow, eliminating that huge gap that he had built up, and then he was pitting off sequence compared to everybody else. So he's definitely had a very good drive, as it looks like Del Toro is going to be caught up with a little bit of traffic trying to pass Viverco, and they bang doors side by side.
He thought there needed to be a bit more space to the left-hand side, and Viverco maybe wanting to pinch him a little bit, but thankfully they get away with it without anybody spinning off the circuit. Meantime, we've got just a couple corners to go here for Bolton. Does he overtake these cars, or does he let them battle for one more lap? It looks like, I think he's going to let them go because he's got the space. No, Larry Haas is going to get lapped right at the end as Michael Bolton will take the win against all odds today.
And that secures second place for Larry Haas, as well as BJ Fulton here coming across the line. Thomas Isabel will round out your podium here. Jad Duncan takes fourth place, and that will be a victory lap is what it's called for the white and red 35 of Christopher Marciniak.
I have a feeling that Marciniak is now Michael Bolton's biggest fan, while Larry Haas perhaps the new anti-Michael Bolton club owner right now. But Larry Haas still gets a second place. It's a great finish for him. Might even be one of his best that we've seen as some of the cars celebrate afterwards with a little bit of crash derby.
Jim Garamani just misses out on the podium, as this is our only car essentially still running out there. I believe Mark Rondeau is actually coming up out of Blanchimont and into the final chicane as well. Got a feel for the gray and orange number 11 after having that little bit of contact. Definitely shoved him further down the order than the speed showed for him. But Marciniak just going to cruise through this half lap here and collect a checkered flag.
So going to go 2 for 2 to open up the second half of the 2025 seasons. Marciniak doing just a fantastic job out front, and even in spite of dramas. And I got to say, this really, to me, sold the worth of Christopher Marciniak, because in the past, I feel like we've seen him kind of run away from things a little bit. He had to fight for this one.
Yeah, definitely had to fight. Also, he got I think he slipped back in that initial start. Remember, he kind of had to avoid those GT3s on that turn 1 schmozzle. So the full course yellow helped kind of get him back into things, and then he definitely took advantage of it and will bring home the win.
Through Blanchimont up to the bus stop chicane, essentially a victory lap for the number 35, as the rest of his class will be set as a lap down from him. And the finishing results: victory for the number 35 of Christopher Marciniak, which gives us a chance to go through our results here. And Michael Bolton, again, shocked us. I'm curious if he even shocked himself with that one. Going from 6th to the win today BJ Fulton finished behind him. Could have been the winner, but shot himself in the foot with too many incident points. Thomas Isabel still gets a great podium today. Jad Duncan behind will finish fourth. Dustin Heindel fifth. Federico Del Toro only sixth despite starting on pole today. Daniel Viverco was P7. Rob Russell was eighth, and James Baxter ninth, with Mark Rondo 10th. Steele and Shulam, I believe, well, Steele started, but Shulam was a did not start.
And then over to those Cayman GT4 results, it was Christopher Marciniak going +1 lap on the field with that victory lap. The number 35 takes the checkered flag. Larry Haas is going to finish in second place. Gave him a good run for his money, especially in those last couple laps there. John Momeyer rounds out the podium in what is third place. Jim Garamani finishing in fourth with Alan Watts in fifth. And then Matt Hollander, after starting a couple laps down, finishes in sixth.
That takes us to our winner, Michael Bolton. Let's have a chat and see how confident he felt about this strategy. Because, Michael, I have to admit, after the caution, Joey and I spent much of the race saying how you had made a strategic mistake. You had lost the race, and yet here you sit with the winner's trophy in your hands. How much did you know that this was going to work out in your favor?
Go Peak, it feels good to be back on the top step of the podium. That's for sure. I definitely thought that was my race as well. Pit lane was closed the whole entire time until the last lap, opened for like 2 seconds and then was closed again. So I just didn't want to risk it. And yeah, at that point, my race engineer for this race, Mr. Michael Johnson, was looking at the data and the fuel. He's like, just keep pushing, keep growing the gap, and let's do a quick splash and dash at the end. And yeah, I was definitely shocked, but Johnson definitely had a good strategy for me.
So there's the secret weapon behind the scenes. So you go from a second to a first. This is a pretty good start to the season. How you feeling?
Feeling great. I had a birthday yesterday. I've had COVID for a week, but yeah, good birthday yesterday, and I just really wanted to do well this season. So I'm definitely off on the right foot, and want to dedicate this win to my wife and my awesome parents, who are my dad is he builds my computer, so he's quite the engineer himself as well. So huge shout out to my team and my wife, and yeah, I want to be up on these top steps again. So I don't know where we're going next, but Spa's one of my favorite tracks, and just the consistency, getting into that rhythm, going up the Rouge, and just like really feeling good. Had a great setup, and hopefully I can continue this trajectory.
Well, the next one is going to be Auto Club, so definitely important one, with that being home soil for Porsche Owners Club. Again, congratulations and happy birthday. Glad you could give yourself a nice little gift.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the next race is going to be brutal with these guys, but I'll bring it. Let's go. It'll be fun.
That was your winner, Michael Bolton, in the GT3s. Meanwhile, Joey's caught up with our winners in the GT4.
Yeah, got Christopher Marciniak in here. Congratulations on taking the win here today.
Thank you very much. That was some chaos. I bet that made for some good YouTube streaming.
Yeah, it was definitely chaotic. Talk us, first of all, through lap one, turn number one, because it seemed like as you went around the corner, you had like 2 or 3 cars facing you.
Yes, yeah. Got a real good start, surprised, and then just sort of needled my way through, and then cars to the left, cars to the right. Was just trying to work my way through, but got through there safe. Yeah, absolute chaos there. I was kind of, after that I needed to regroup and absolutely did that, but whew.
And then what happened towards the end of the race there? We noticed that you lost a big chunk of time, and then you had the battle with Larry Haas, but ultimately were able to hold him off.
Yeah, so there was a little miscommunication, and nobody's fault. Just as far as a pit under yellow, the pit was open, but we need to pit under green for POC rules. So that's okay. So I just settled in and waited for the 5-minute mark, and gained as much time as I possibly could. And then I made a mistake, about 1 second mistake up Eau Rouge. Had to give the time back, and Larry took advantage of it. So it was good car control and racing from Larry towards the end there.
That'll definitely add up for sure, but great job in holding them off there at the end. While we still have you here, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
As always, I'd like to thank my wife and co-driver, Christine. Thanks so much, guys.
Well, that was Christopher Marciniak, driver of that white and red number 35.
Which is going to wrap us up for the evening. And of course, before we go, another huge thank you to the sponsors of this series, which includes Porsche, there is no substitute, and Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Thanks to the team today as well, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like I said, next one is going to be important. The sadly now defunct Auto Club Speedway, Monday, August 11th at 10 p.m. Eastern is when we're coming back. But other than that race, we also have Grand Prix Legends coming up this weekend. They'll be at Olton Park. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts. We also have